This video is going to be about why I think the Premier League is incredibly overrated. The quality of Premier League clubs has dropped and there's no point in denying that. We do not have the best players in the world as most of them play in the Bundesliga or La Liga. Players like Reus, Lewandowski, Mullar, Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, Suarez, Iniesta, Griezman, and I can go on and on, all play in those leagues. Just ask yourself, when was the last time a Premier League player made the FIFA World 11? When was the last time a player from the Premier League won the Ballon d'Or? Was even in third place? In fact, even made the list. Now, I'm not saying the Premier League have not had any world-class players. Thierry Henry, Drogba, Scholes, and there's many more. But you would have to go back 7 to 10 years to see top quality players play in the Premier League. Who do we really have representing the Premier League now? No, really, who? An injury-prone Aguero, David De Gea, who's a goalkeeper, Ibrahimović, Ozil. These four players are actually world-class. Now let's go down a couple levels. We will have players like Pogba, who's still raw but talented, xacher, Sanchez, Fabragas, who failed at Barcelona by the way. These players can play at a high level. But do you see how I'm struggling to name you names? But if you was to ask me for a world-class or very good player from the Liga or the Bundesliga, their names will just roll off the tongue. And the Premier League aren't really producing good young talents. And don't mention Dele Alli and Harry Kane as your argument. They're not, and I'm getting sick and tired of people overhyping them. They're frauds and the Euros have proven that. And Sterling, I think everybody, even City fans now know he's fucking shit. Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Julian Draxler, Marco Verratti, Paulo Dybala, Halalovic, and that's all at the top of my head. They are all quality young players and better than what the Premier League is producing. And with the exception of Halalovic, they all play Champions League football, while Dele Alli has only played Europa League and in the declining Premier League. And my next point, can the Premier League really attract world-class players? The reality is the Premier League does not draw or keep enough of its high-quality players that are available. Look at Ronaldo. He was having the best part of his career at Manchester United, while United was at their best. And he still went to Real Madrid. At that time wasn't really going to win the Champions League. And Manchester United from 2007 to 2012 had made the Champions League final 3 times. La Liga have been able to draw players like the Brazilian Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Zinedine Zidane, Luis Figo, Rivaldo, Kaká, and the Serie A. They've had Pavel Nedved, Pirlo, Maldini, Totti, and plenty more. Now I'm not saying the Premier League have not had that too. For every world-class player the Premier League has had, the other leagues like the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga have had 5 times more. The third point is about how competitive the Premier League is. People would say the Premier League is the most competitive league in Europe, which I do not deny. But because of that, they will automatically assume that it's the best, which is fucking stupid. People would say there are 4 or 5 teams that can win the Premier League. This is a bunch of horse shit. Last season, there were only 3 teams really competing in February, and come late March, early April, Leicester City were clear and ended up finishing 10 points ahead of Arsenal. The 2014-15 season, Chelsea ran away with the title. The year before that, it was a 2-horse race between Man City and Liverpool. So the Premier League does not have 4 or 5 teams competing for its title. It's usually 2, maybe 3, and another 2 competing for the top 4 spot. If you watched La Liga last year, then you would have seen 3 teams competing for the title. Barcelona finished 3 points ahead of Atletico Madrid, who finished 3rd. Those who believe the Premier League is the best simply because it's competitive would have to follow the same logic and say that the Championship, Coca-Cola League, or whatever the fuck it's called, is the best league in the world. My fourth point is about the Champions League and Europa League performances from the Premier League clubs. 10 years ago, English teams were formidable in the Champions League. From 2005 to 2012, a Premier League club has made the Champions League final 6 times out of 7. And in 2009, there were 3 Premier League teams in the semi-final. But the reality is now, and for a good 4 years, Premier League teams have been utter dog shit. Since 2012, Manchester United twice could not get out of the group stage. Chelsea, the Champions League holders at the time, were kicked into the Europa League. Manchester City, the so-called team with the best squad in Europe, even better than Barcelona according to that fucking moron Steve McManaman, have been utterly humiliated. Arsenal for the last 5 years have been kicked out of the last 16, and Liverpool's return to the Champions League was embarrassing. Tottenham were humiliated by Borussia Dortmund, and Liverpool were given a footballing lesson by Sevilla. Head to head in the last 6 years, when a Premier League club faces a good European team, they always lose. UEFA does not agree with the notion that the Premier League is the best in the world. In the 2015-16 season, UEFA coefficient ranked the Premier League third behind the La Liga and the Bundesliga, and after this year's performance, I wouldn't be surprised if it's ranked fourth. The highest placed club in the coefficient is Chelsea, and they were 8th. Remember that, they're 8th, and they're not even in the Champions League this year. The reality is, if any Premier League team meets Juventus, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico, they will be kicked out, especially if Tottenham and Leicester is representing. And my final point, the Premier League's style of football is only praised in England. Sure, when the big clubs face each other, it's entertaining to watch. But overall, this fascination that Premier League fans and pundits have with pace and power is actually quite shocking. The fact that these attributes are valued higher than skill, good passing and intelligence is the main reason why the Premier League is not the best. The rest of the world have evolved and moved on with their football, while the Premier League is going backwards, unwilling to change from the so-called glory days of the 80s. That's why you hear morons like Michael Owen say Sterling is better than Ozil.
If he was flattered by the talk of Arsenal, would he get an Arsenal's team?
Well, I would think so. They would find some way. Well, you know, he's better than him, Ozil.
He's better than Ozil, do you think?
I think so, yeah.
I don't think he is.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Other leagues play much better football than the Premier League because it's more tactical, their passing is more precise, and there's more emphasis on skill and technical ability. Now, I'm not saying the intensity of the Premier League is a bad thing. In fact, when it's done well, it's actually really good. But that was last done well when the Premier League was the best in the world. The fact that Leicester City are now reigning champions shows how far the Premier League has dropped. You take Leicester's team and put it in the Premier League of last decade, they would have never been anywhere near 4th place, let alone winning the league. Obviously this is good for small clubs, but it's not good for the Premier League, as Leicester and Tottenham probably won't qualify out the Champions League group stage, which will result in the Champions League 4th place being taken away. Anyways, this is the end of the video. If you agree, give me a like and subscribe. If you disagree, leave a comment. Make sure it's constructive and I'll probably will reply. Thanks for watching.